As if 2020 couldn't get any weirder, we have been dealing with an absolutely insane housing market here in the Tampa Bay area for the last couple of months. And so have a lot of other markets around the country. So, what the heck is going on, and how do buyers figure out if now is the right time to buy? We will explore these perplexing questions next. Hey everybody, Melanie Atkinson, Realtor with Smith & Associates in beautiful Tampa Bay, Florida. Stress and uncertainty seems to be a theme here in 2020, and that's what current home buyers are feeling. Do you take advantage of the ridiculously low interest rates right now, or do you wait till there's more inventory? Will those interest rates still be low when there is more inventory? What about another housing market crash? What if I buy now, then it becomes 2010 again and the values plummet? Lots to get to here. So let's start at the beginning of 2020 for a little bit of perspective. At the beginning of this year, before we ever said the word COVID, we were already dealing with low inventory here in the Tampa Bay area. Lower interest rates, along with the fact that a lot of sellers were just not moving, created a lot more demand than we had supply of homes to sell. The economy was strong and people were looking for second homes or investment homes or looking to move up on their primary home. We were expecting a very brisk spring and summer selling season, and then maybe we would see a little bit of a dip in the market around the late fall, around the election time, because it's pretty normal for the housing market to slow down during major elections. Well, obviously, that is not what's happened so far this year. Mid-March came and sellers took their homes off the market. Buyers couldn't come down to view homes, and the housing market slowed dramatically. But that was only for a couple of months. Let's take a look at the numbers so you can see what happened. The number of closings of single-family homes, townhouses, condos, villas in the Tampa Bay area, including Hillsborough, Pinellas, and Pasco counties, in the month of April was 4,559 closings. In May, it was 4,271 closings. But in June, it jumped to 6,207 closings. And what happened in July? It jumped even more to 6,780 closings. There were over 2,500 more closings in July than in May of this year. In comparison, in 2019, there were only 300 more closings in July than in May. So basically, everyone descended on the area at the same time wanting to buy a house. That huge increase in demand meant that we had multiple offers on properties. We had housing prices rising, and there was a franticness in the market that was making buyers want to pull their hair out. So why is this happening, and is it sustainable? Whenever I talk to people who aren't in the market to buy and I tell them that the housing market is crazy, they usually look at me very confused. And then they follow it up with two questions. Aren't there a lot of unemployed people out there right now? And how can people afford to buy houses? Well, yes, unfortunately, there are a lot of unemployed people out there right now. But there are also a lot of people out there who haven't lost their jobs. In fact, there are a lot of people out there who have had their jobs restructured, so now they're working primarily from home, and their homes have taken on an even more important meaning. And if their job has gone fully remote, that means they can move wherever they want, and a lot of people are looking to move to less expensive states to keep their cost of living down. And that explains why I've received so many calls from people in states like New York and New Jersey, California, and Illinois. We are now past what is typically our peak summer selling months and going into the slower August-September markets. But we still have a tremendous amount of buyers just waiting on the sideline for their perfect house to come on the market. Needless to say, I'm not seeing a decline in demand. And until demand decreases and our inventory increases, we won't see an end to that franticness that's going on in the market right now. Houses that are priced right, look great, and are in desirable areas will continue to sell quickly. So how long can this go on for? Prices can't just keep going up at this rate forever, right? Logically, the answer to that question is no. The housing market goes up and down just like every other market. Because it wasn't that long ago, people are really afraid that if we see housing prices go down, it will be a huge decrease like what we saw in 2008 to 2011. Now, I think it's great that people have a healthy fear of the 2008 housing market crash. That says to me that people are paying attention and don't want it to happen again. And trust me, it's the last thing I want too. I still have nightmares about it. But just because there is a recession doesn't mean that there's automatically going to be a housing market crash. Historically, housing has been one of the most stable investments that you can make. But what about those people who lost their jobs? Won't they lose their house to foreclosure? Some of them, unfortunately, will lose their house to foreclosure, but that doesn't necessarily mean that the market is going to be instantly flooded with foreclosures. Banks are going to try to work with homeowners now. They're going to want them to stay in their homes. Banks make more money if people pay their mortgages, not by foreclosing on homes. And also, there's enough equity in most homes that people, if they're having financial trouble right now, should be able to sell their home without having to short sell it. Even if the foreclosure numbers do start going up, keep in mind that it takes years for the entire foreclosure process to happen. There's a lot of steps necessary, including going through the court system, that the bank has to take before they can repossess a house and then sell it on the open market as a foreclosure. So for all of you out there waiting for there to be a 50% sale on Florida homes, I don't see that happening in the foreseeable future. I do know that basic economics tells me that eventually the demand and supply will balance out and prices will level out, but I don't have a crystal ball letting me know exactly when that's going to happen. Now let's talk about the number one reason that the housing market has gone so crazy this summer, and that's historically low interest rates. In August, we saw interest rates for 30-year fixed loans go under 3%. That is insane. Everybody's buying power has gone up because borrowing money just got cheaper. When interest rates were at 4%, which we thought was really low, your principal and interest payment for a $400,000 loan was $1,910. At a 3% interest rate, you can now have a $450,000 loan for $1,897 per month. That's $13 less per month for a more expensive house. And that's why people are suddenly stretching their budgets to afford more house, because their budgets just got stretchier. That's the great news for all of you buyers out there, but keep in mind everybody's in the same boat, so housing prices are going to go up as people start offering more in multiple offer situations. Now, based on the actions that the Fed has continued to take to keep interest rates lower, I don't see the interest rates going up anytime soon. In fact, there's a lot of people out there predicting that interest rates could even go down closer to 2%. The interest rates continuing to be low is good news for all of you buyers out there. It lets you be a little bit more patient while waiting for that perfect house to come on the market. Let's talk inventory. In the last decade, the average amount of time that people in the Tampa Bay area are staying in their homes has gone up by 3 years. And if people don't move as much, then there aren't as many houses to buy. That makes us rely on new construction for a major portion of our inventory. Builders have been building at a very fast pace here for several years, but it's still hard to keep up with the demand. They have to deal with counties and permitting, labor shortages, and supply shortages. They can only build so much. Moving forward, I think it'll be really interesting to see what happens in the next decade to see if people stay in their house even longer. A lot of people are buying big houses that they can grow into, and the interest rates being as low as they are, if interest rates happen to go up, they're not going to want to sell that house with the low interest rate to buy a different one with a high interest rate. So let's recap real quick. Interest rates are at historical lows, creating a demand for buyers to purchase houses so they can lock in those interest rates. And buyers are able to afford more because the money is cheaper to borrow. Number 2, people who already own homes are staying in them longer, thus creating less inventory for people to buy. Number 3, lots of people have not lost their jobs, and a lot of jobs have been restructured, so people are working full-time from home. That's allowing people to move wherever they want, and a lot of people are choosing to move to states that are less expensive than the current state that they live in. And they also want to get away from the cold winters. Number 4, even if there is a prolonged recession, that doesn't necessarily mean that the housing market is going to crash like what we saw in 2008. There were some factors back then that are just not the same now. Historically, housing has always been one of the most stable investments you can make. And 5, will supply eventually catch up with demand and balance out the housing market? Of course it will, but when will that happen? I wish I knew. Now, I know what a lot of you out there are thinking. She's a real estate agent. Of course she's going to encourage people to buy homes. The market's gonna crash and all of those people are gonna lose all of their money. And to you, I say I never encourage people to buy houses that don't already want or need to buy houses. And people have lots of different reasons as to why they need or want to buy a house. Even in the depths of the Great Recession, people were still buying houses because life continues to happen. Babies were being born, kids were going off to college, people were getting married, people were getting divorced. Even in the worst economic times, life continues to happen and people's housing needs change. I encourage all of my buyers to take a very close look at their financial picture and their personal situation to determine if buying a house right now is the right thing for them, regardless of what happens with the economy. Some of my buyers are choosing to wait, and some of them are choosing to jump headfirst into this craziness. Either way, I'm happy to talk it over with anybody who's thinking about buying or selling in the Tampa Bay area. I hope this episode gave you some good information and got you thinking. If you're looking for something else to watch on this channel, check out the video that I did at the beginning of the COVID times with a lender friend of mine, and we talked about interest rates and why they were so low. Thank you all for watching. I'll see you next time. With love, Melanie.